I have a weed eater riding mower 2005 model with a 13.5 horsepower Briggs and Stratton engine that runs fine until it gets hot and then it bogs out and then corrects itself. Sometimes it stalls, but it will start back up. But if I engage the cutting blades and let out the clutch, it bogs out again, sometimes correcting itself again, and sometimes it will resume engine speed only when I shut off cutters and push in the clutch.
Hello, and thank you for choosing JustAnswer. I'll be helping you today and am committed to providing clear and concise answers to your question. What is the model, type, and code number off the engine, please? This information is usually above the spark plug or on the OHV cover on an overhead valve engine. This link will provide information on what the numbers needed for identification look like and where to find them on your style of engine. Riding mower engines. How old is the oldest fuel that's been in it? Was it working properly earlier this season, or is this the initial use after the off-season? When was the last time the carburetor was rebuilt? When was the last time the valves were adjusted?
Also, the battery was replaced.
Did you see my earlier information request?
Yes, I sent it to you. Here it is again. Model number 21B807 type 0290 EO code 1115 ZA. Model hash XXXXX type 0290 EO code 1115 ZA.
Thank you. For some reason it didn't come through until after your battery statement, then it came though twice. How old is the oldest fuel that's been in it? Was it working properly earlier this season, or is this the initial use after the off-season? When was the last time the carburetor was rebuilt? When was the last time the valves were adjusted?
The valves were adjusted last summer. The fuel was 5 months old, and yes, it was running okay earlier this year. The carb was never rebuilt.
5-month-old fuel is most likely the issue then. But this also has a fuel shutoff solenoid, so here's a couple of things to try. Solenoid: there is a cylinder with a wire on the carburetor. When you move the key switch between the off and run positions, do you hear a distinct and sharp click from it in both key positions? Also, does it get hot to the touch when energized for a period of time? Getting hot is a sign of a failed winding inside. If you don't hear a sharp click, the fuel solenoid is not working. It can be a faulty solenoid, a gummed-up solenoid, or an electrical problem. Please shut off the fuel or pinch the fuel line and have a container ready under the carburetor bowl. Then disconnect the wire and remove the solenoid. There are usually a couple of flats to get a wrench on. Once the solenoid is removed, inspect the spring-loaded pin on the end and see if it moves freely. If there's gum and varnish built up around it, you can sometimes revive them with a bit of spray carburetor cleaner. If the pin moves freely, then dry the tip and solenoid completely to remove any fuel residue and take it to a location with good ventilation and no fuel vapors present. You can bench test the solenoid by jumpering voltage to it either from the tractor battery or even a 9V battery. With voltage applied, you should see the pin snap back briskly, and then snap forward when voltage is removed. Be sure to test it several times to verify consistent operation. Carb cleaning: be sure to check for good fuel flow to the carburetor. If it has a fuel pump, remove the line and crank the engine while observing flow into a container. If it doesn't have a fuel pump and a gravity feed system, then just let the line flow into the container without cranking the engine. You should get a steady stream in either scenario. Also, if it has a fuel shutoff solenoid on the carburetor, verify you can hear distinctive clicks when going between the off and run positions. They can sometimes get gummed up and restrict fuel flow or malfunction. But the odds are a dirty carburetor. Since it's running, you may try a chemical cleaning first. It may save a full manual cleaning. I suggest picking up some mechanic in a bottle on your next trip to Home Depot. Mix it with the fuel according to the label directions. This does a tremendous job of cleaning out the fuel system. It's inexpensive and highly recommended. Mechanic in a bottle website. Next option would be a minor fix that sometimes solve it. Please shut off the fuel or pinch the fuel line and have a container ready under the carburetor bowl. Remove the bowl nut and look in the bowl for any sediment or buildup. Clean it out. Be cautious not to knock the float loose. It's not major if you do, but there's no sense having to put more back together than necessary. The high-speed jet is likely plugged. Depending upon the carburetor, it will be located either in the bowl nut itself, on the side of the center leg of the carburetor the bowl nut screwed into, or inside the threaded area of the center leg the bowl nut unscrewed from. It can be easily identified since it's usually brass and at a very small hole that meters the fuel going up to the throat of the carburetor. Spray it with carburetor cleaner and use some small soft wire like from a bread tie to make sure the passage is clear. If it's in the bowl nut, pay close attention to the small hole in the threaded area. Spray some carburetor cleaner up the center nozzle of the carburetor as well until it shoots out the throat of the carb. If this doesn't take care of it, then a full cleaning should be done manually. I like to mention fuel, since it's almost always the root cause of the problem. I recommend using fuel no older than 3 weeks unless you are mixing in a good quality fuel stabilizer specifically designed to work with ethanol blends, which is in almost all fuels today. Likely 70% of the problems like this we see are fuel or carburetor related. Today's fuels with ethanol are nowhere as stable as the fuels we had a few years ago. I recommend against purchasing fuel from some of the smaller stores that sell fuel for less than the well-known stations such as Chevron, Shell, etc. These smaller companies get a price break on fuel from the distributors because they are buying fuel that is near the 30-day mark. Distributors cannot sell the fuel past that age, so they offer a discount to these buyers. Result is that you may be getting fuel that's nearly stale right from the pump. Because of the fuel situation, we see a lot of carburetor problems. If you don't feel comfortable with this kind of repair, I would suggest sending it to a reputable shop. If you do the work yourself, take pictures or at least make a drawing of where all the linkages, gaskets, and component parts go. Correct reassembly is critical. Disassemble and clean every part with carburetor cleaner. Soak is better than spray, and blow out all the small holes and passageways with compressed air or use soft tag wire to make sure they're not blocked, then blow through them. Do not get carburetor cleaner on the non-metallic parts since it will cause them to decompose and further plug the carburetor. Remove the carb cleaner from the metal parts by washing them in warm, soapy water, then rinsing with clean water. Dry them thoroughly before reassembling using your pictures or drawings as a guide. Before you put the carburetor back on, flush the fuel tank and replace the fuel line and filter so you aren't plugging up your clean carburetor with residue from old fuel. Hope this info helps. If you need more information, please stop and reply to me via the Reply to Expert link in the lower right corner of the ratings box with any issue or remaining question you may have. My reputation as an excellent expert is critical, and I will be happy to continue further and do everything I can to provide you with the best service possible. Your highest rating is my primary goal because that means I've given you the top quality service you deserve. Thank you so much. Please keep me posted so we can discuss and make sure this solves it for you and your weed eater runs right.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit JustAnswer.com/YTHI.